So today I'm going to be talking about some stuff from my uncle's book. His name is Yaakov Saacks, and he wrote a book. You can find it on the internet, I think even on Amazon. So he says quantum Torah is what we're looking at. Experience is affected by whether the viewer has positive intentions or thoughts. So that creates positive energy and vice versa. He says a waxing moon, and these are the Kabbalah finishers at the end of each of his chapters. So he says a waxing moon is the moon between the crescent and the full, and the waning is between the full and the new one. So waxing is like it's getting bigger, and waning is it's getting smaller. And instead of just anytime getting smaller, waxing is when it's getting bigger, it fills up. It goes from crescent and fills up, and then waning is when it's full, and then there's a new one. So you have to imagine it, okay? You have to imagine it. The educator must introspect and self-examine extra vigorously and earnestly and review the methods and see whether there's deliberateness, there's politeness, or just like reactive kind of teaching. In Samaria, region of Israel's biblical great are buried is Abraham. In the Sumerian region, these are the biblical buried. So it's Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Leah, Joseph, I don't see Jacob. Could be I didn't write it. Elazar, Itamar, Joshua, Caleb, Nun, Hannah, Shmuel, Eli, Eli, David, Absalom, Jesse, and Ruth. The seal of God is truth. We can change destiny by decreeing something will happen if one only speaks truth, emulating the Creator, which means we get permission for untruth, learned from Aaron the high priest, who made peace between the husband and wife by stretching the truth. Tiferes, comprised from Chesed and Gevurah, is this idea of fusion into flowing harmony. A home is a mini sanctuary. It's called Mikdash Ma'at, which is where we can feel safe, vulnerable, and loved. Tamid, every morning, means a constant daily offering, teaching consistently, consistency, and reliability before anything else was done. When a child grows, one, they receive light like the moon without their own light, and two, they start offering their own light. The more sun increasing is shaky, and there's it leads to a transition followed by being sweet and amicable again. But when there's more sun, more of their self coming out, they may, be in that wobble. So sometimes we forget we're actually like growing when we're wobbling. We're generating more of our own light. When our soul leaves the body, before the body's buried, the soul is in a state of limbo and can't ascend to heaven till the burial, but also isn't animating the body. So when it makes himself, so basically the soul of the recently departed returns home to where it lived and remains for the Shiva. It finds comforts in the prayers and the Psalms and the non-physical and unaffected by the physical phenomenon. So the soul could be in heaven and in a body, and it's in no contradiction, right? And that's even like that's why we can't forget, even if we shouldn't have an inflated ego, we should never forget our own self-worth and the self-worth of those around us, that they and us are all actually still also in heaven. And we don't need to take gifts for poor, but dogs will not die of old age. I shouldn't call anyone a dog. Okay, so when someone doesn't have anything for the poor, God makes it that the karma makes him poor, so he's actually dependent on what people will give him. So whoever needs to take but doesn't will actually end up getting enough to give, because he learns that people need, right? So similarly, a judge who renders the true judgment according to its truth, that's why we say the true judge, God knows better than all of us what people did many years ago. We may only be seeing it right now, right? Or what they didn't do. No two people have the same purpose or mission. There's a unique DNA, spiritually The code has no redundancies. And we also, looking at another thing about, someone who, let's say, what we do, how it affects us. So one who makes himself out to be lame or blind or crippled but is not, will actually not die of old age till he becomes like one of them. And then I wanted to say, angels, this is something he said I really liked. Angels don't have free will. We do, and we can actually trespass God's will and instruction. We're the only ones in the universe. And so a great reward awaits those who suppress the desire to do something improper just because God said so. When a man accomplishes God's will below, he causes a parallel rectification above. Our thoughts, speech, and action are felt in the upper world. And one may be living here 70, 80 years just to do a material favor, and certainly a spiritual one. We learn from our matriarchs and patriarchs to gather in prayer before starting other tools. And so here we see there's action, there's prayer, and when a person passes young, it's a special, lofty, unique soul needing just a short time to fulfill their mission, which usually takes a lifetime. Or it comes down to share its light because someone needed help. When we work, it's good for our self-worth and it's healthy, and we're the only creation that can elevate something physical to holiness. For example, charity elevates the entire work week, enterprising, and not just as a means to an end. It gives everything in it purpose, meaning, and our body is on loan. We're guardians and caretakers. We have to consider this when we do things like tattooing or afflicting our body, even if people who do self-harm, that's like cutting or smoking, all bodies, this refers to emotional, physical, and medical bodies. The free will we have is the power to sift among the lies for the truth and vice versa. We have to be able to separate the good from the bad. And we have a left eye and a right eye, which remind us of the shin and the sin. The right eye is fondness and compassion. The left eye is disinterest and unimportance. And death is strictly defined to the body. It only goes skin deep. It's mortal. The soul is eternal, and it's like physical touch and sight only. That's how it goes away from in front of us. And the chuppah blessing, one of them is may God grant abundant joy to these loving friends as you bestowed gladness upon your created being in the Garden of Eden of old. So we're saying basically Adam and Eve only had one another. They were perfectly suited. They were undoubtedly destined. It would only work for them to be together. So that's what we wish. All right. Well, anyway, I hope that this was interesting for you. I've just finished and completed my journal that I started reading at some point ago. It's what I called book number 7. And I will be doing the 6 other ones. It's very possible I read a few things from the 6th one. I really don't remember, but I will be doing reading from, I don't know if I should move backwards or forwards. It might make sense to move backwards, book by book. So I'll get out journal number 6, which I will start doing tomorrow. And or maybe not tomorrow, maybe I'll do a couple of days of transition. I have a few practices and prompts I've been working with, so I'll share those. All right, thank you for spending this time with me. Be well.